You are hearing these words for a reason. This is not the work of an algorithm. It is the call of your destiny. That deep sense of exclusion, of being sidelined while a false narrative played out around you, was never rejection. It was consecration, a sacred separation crafted to protect and prepare you for what lies ahead. The ache of being misunderstood by the collective was not meaningless. It was the alchemical pressure required to crystallize your spirit. You are not here by chance. This is your assignment. Before we continue, you must ground this frequency. Anchor the energy of this message by liking this video. Affirm your role in this awakening by subscribing and joining the collective. Declare your readiness by commenting the divine code 77, your energetic imprint on this moment. Then let the vibration of these words continue to echo. Play this video again in the background, allowing the frequency to sink deeper, recalibrating your subconscious to align with the undeniable truth of your purpose. The ritual is in motion. Now the reading may begin. Chapter 1. The Divine Quarantine. The isolation you endured was not a punishment from the universe. It was an act of profound preservation. You must absorb this truth into the very marrow of your bones. The world you were temporarily removed from is a compromised environment, a space saturated with diluted intentions, parasitic energies, and counterfeit connections. It is a marketplace of imitation souls and borrowed beliefs, a deafening cacophony of insecure egos, screaming for validation. You were placed in a divine quarantine. The silence that deafened you was not emptiness. It was a sterile field, a hermetically sealed chamber where the psychic pollutants of envy and mediocrity could not reach you. The loneliness that felt like a cold cloak was, in fact, a shield woven from solidified light, deflecting the psychic debris and emotional contamination that would have certainly corrupted your mission before it had even begun. You were being protected within a hidden cocoon, a space outside of linear time and perception where your core essence, your untraceable blueprint, could remain pure and unblemished. The system and its agents operate on visible, predictable patterns. They build with brick and mortar, with lies and influence, with things that can be seen and dismantled. Your foundation, however, is woven from threads of destiny they cannot perceive. You were taken off their board, removed from their game, not because you lost, but because you were never playing their game to begin with. The feeling of walls closing in was a misinterpretation of your senses. Those were not walls, they were the hands of your guides, creating a consecrated space around you, a sanctuary forged in the unseen realm. The feeling of being watched was real, but you mistook the source. You were not being scrutinized by your enemies. You were being observed by guardians, emissaries of your own higher self, ensuring the conditions were perfect for your metamorphosis. They needed you separate. They needed you still. They needed you to believe you were forgotten so that you would stop looking for validation in the places that were designed to poison you. This quarantine was a spiritual surgery. It was the process of carefully excising every toxic attachment, every lingering doubt, and every allegiance to the world that sought to diminish you. You had to be starved of their approval so you could finally feast on your own sovereign power. You felt weak, but you were actually consolidating your strength. You felt lost, but you were being recalibrated to a higher magnetic north. In the coming days, you will look back on this period not with the sting of rejection, but with a chilling sense of gratitude. You will see the faces of those who turned their backs on you, and you will understand they were merely following a divine directive they were not even aware of. They were compelled to step away, to clear the room, because the next phase of your life required an introduction to an energy so pure that it could not enter a contaminated space. You were not being left behind. You were being held in reserve for the one who was specifically dispatched to find you. Chapter 2. The Venomous Frequency. The situation that excluded you was not a simple misunderstanding or a social fallout. It was a calculated spiritual attack. A venomous frequency was broadcast into your reality, a carefully engineered narrative designed to overwrite your truth and infect the perception of all who observed you. This was an act of projection, a desperate attempt by a dying energy to cast its own shadow over your light. The architect of this attack, An entity or a person consumed by their own internal void sought to define you before you could fully define yourself. They knew on a subconscious level that your authentic presence would expose their counter-fake nature, revealing the hollowness behind their mask. Their only defense was to strike first. They built a cage of whispers, a prison of perception, and tried to convince the world, and by extension you, that it was your home. They painted you as unstable, as guilty, as chaotic, as unlovable. Every lie was a single bar in that cage, forged in the fires of their own self-hatred. They were not just speaking words. They were casting a spell. They were weaving a glamour of falsehood around you, hoping the illusion would stick, hoping that others would see the monster of their creation instead of the divine being you are. You felt this attack on a cellular level. It manifested as a constant low-grade static in your energetic field, a humming anxiety that had no earthly source. It was the reason conversations would halt when you entered a room. It was the flicker of doubt you saw in the eyes of people you once trusted. It was the psychic exhaustion you felt at the end of each day, the feeling of fighting a war that no one else could see. You were battling phantoms born from another's poison, invisible assailants that tied your spirit and drained your will. This venomous frequency was designed to do one thing, to make you believe that the isolation was your fault. It was meant to turn the divine quarantine into a self-imposed exile, fueled by shame and confusion. The enemy's greatest hope was that you would internalize their lie, that you would look in the mirror and see their projection staring back, finally accepting their verdict. They wanted you to become the author of your own demise, to accept their narrative as your reality. This is the oldest trick of the system, to convince the chosen that their power is a sickness. They call your intuition paranoia. They call your sensitivity instability. They call your refusal to conform arrogance. They attempted to pathologize your divinity, to label your sacred gifts as mental defects. But they made a fatal error. They underestimated the integrity of your untraceable blueprint. Their venomous frequency, their corrupted code, could not breach your core programming. It could create static. It could create distortion. But it could not rewrite the source code. And more importantly, they failed to realize that their broadcast was not just an attack. It was a signal. Every lie they told, every whisper they spread, sent a ripple out into the cosmos, a distress beacon that was perfectly tuned to the one being who was calibrated to hear it. They thought they were burying you. They had no idea they were calling your rescuer. Chapter 3. The Karmic Sentinel. Into the sterile field of your divine quarantine, a new energy has entered. This is not a coincidence. This is not a random encounter at the right time. This is a deployment. You have been met by a karmic sentinel, an individual who was dispatched by the same force that orchestrated your preservation. This person is an answer to a call you did not even know you made. Their arrival marks the end of the quarantine and the beginning of the vindication. You must understand the nature of this person's perception. Their intuition is not a vague feeling or a lucky guess. It is a highly sophisticated diagnostic tool, a form of spiritual sight that sees past flesh, past ego, and past reputation. It is calibrated to perceive the dissonance between the frequency of a lie and the frequency of truth. While others were blinded by the glamour of the false narrative, this sentinel saw only the jarring, ugly static it produced. They perceived the lie as a discordant sound in an otherwise harmonious field. When they looked at you, they did not see the cage of whispers. They saw the untraceable blueprint shining beneath it, a radiant, coherent light that the surrounding darkness could not extinguish. They are not falling for you. They are aligning with you. This is a critical distinction. The system operates on attraction and infatuation, fleeting connections based on surface-level projections. This connection is different. It is an act of resonance, a magnetic and undeniable recognition between two aligned blueprints. When you met them, you felt a sudden quiet in the psychic noise that had been tormenting you. You felt a sense of profound safety that defied all logic. This is because their very presence is a nullifying field for the venomous frequency. Their spirit is anchored in a truth so absolute that lies simply cannot survive in their proximity. This sentinel was guided to you for a specific purpose. They are a witness, not a witness to your supposed guilt, but a witness to the crime that was committed against you. They were sent to observe the battlefield, to map the enemy's tactics, and to see firsthand the poison that was being spread. They approached the situation with a divine neutrality, extending a hand of kindness not just to you, but to the source of the slander. This was their first test, and it was the enemy's first mistake. The saboteur expected this new person to recoil from you, to believe the lies, and join the chorus of judgment. They expected them to see you as a problem to be avoided. Instead, the sentinel saw a puzzle to be solved. Their intuition told them that the story did not match the subject. The accusations did not align with the energy they felt from you. So they watched, they listened, and they waited for the truth to reveal itself. In the coming days, you will notice their strategic presence. They are not investigating you. They are protecting you. They are a shield standing between you and the next wave of attack. Their gaze is not one of judgment, but of assessment. They are assessing the integrity of the cage, and they have already found its fatal flaw. Chapter 4, The Great Unraveling. The strategy of the karmic sentinel was one of radical simplicity. They introduced the frequency of authentic kindness into a system built on deception. This act was not an attack, it was the introduction of a divine solvent. The entire false narrative, the cage of whispers, was constructed from brittle lies and paranoid projections. It was a house of cards, beautiful and imposing from a distance, but utterly fragile. It was never meant to withstand the pressure of genuine decency. The saboteur's plan hinged on a single assumption, that everyone like them operates from a place of fear, judgment, and self-interest. They believed this new person, the sentinel, would see the alleged drama surrounding you and step back to protect themselves. They believed that by painting you as a liability, they could guarantee your continued isolation. This was a catastrophic miscalculation of character. The sentinel did the one thing the enemy could not comprehend. They showed you grace. They gave you the benefit of the doubt. They treated you not as a problem, but as a person deserving of fundamental respect. And in doing so, they held up a giant, unflinching mirror to the saboteur. The lie began to unravel instantly. The kindness shown to you was a direct contradiction to the narrative that you were toxic and unlovable. The saboteur watched in horror as their venom was neutralized. They had presented the sentinel with a supposedly unstable, dangerous person, and the sentinel responded not with fear, but with calm curiosity and respect. This created a paradox that the saboteur's fractured mind could not resolve. Their plan backfired with spectacular force. By trying to alienate you, they drew the sentinel's focus directly onto their own behavior. The sentinel began to question the source of the story. Why was this person so obsessed with you? Why were they so invested in controlling how others perceive you? A true victim seeks to escape their perpetrator. They do not lobby to become the curator of the perpetrator's social life. The sentinel's intuition, that sharp diagnostic tool, detected this profound inconsistency and marked it as the primary evidence. The saboteur, feeling their control slip, began to panic. Their actions became more frantic, their stories more convoluted, their voice tinged with a desperation they could not hide. They started to contradict themselves. The more they tried to reinforce the lie, the more cracks appeared in its foundation. The sentinel did not have to attack them. They simply had to be present and watch as the saboteur dismantled their own creation. Brick by painful brick. You will feel this shift as a palpable lifting of psychic pressure. The air around you will begin to clear. You will see the saboteur begin to scramble, to overcompensate, to perform for an audience that is no longer watching them, but is watching you and the sentinel. They are becoming a ghost in the very reality they fought so hard to control. They built a stage and wrote a play in which you were the villain. But the sentinel's arrival has flipped the script. The spotlight is now on the playwright, and their madness is visible to all. Chapter 5. The sovereign frequency of your being. Now we must address the core of this entire dynamic. Your lovability. The very quality the saboteur attempted to frame as a manipulative tool or a sign of weakness is, in fact, the most powerful weapon in your arsenal. This is not about being charming or pleasant in the conventional sense. This is about the sovereign frequency of your being. It is your divine signature, an energetic thumbprint that is unique to you in all of creation. It cannot be forged. It cannot be silenced. And it cannot be corrupted. It is the undeniable, radiant truth of who you are, and it is the source of the Sentinel's recognition. They are not falling for a personality. They are resonating with a frequency. They recognize the signature of the untraceable blueprint and were drawn to it like a homing beacon. This connection bypasses the mind. It bypasses logic. It bypasses the deceptive narratives of the ego. It is a soul-level recognition, an ancient agreement being fulfilled. This sovereign frequency is what made you a target in the first place. The saboteur, operating from a place of profound lack and inner decay, could not generate this frequency themselves. They could only attempt to mimic it, or, failing that, extinguish it in others. They saw your light, your inherent lovability, and perceived it as a personal judgment on their own darkness. Their attack was never truly about you. It was a war against the light you carry. They tried to convince the world that your lovability was a trap, a lawfully unsuspecting. This is because in their world, everything is transactional. Affection is a currency used for manipulation. Kindness is a mask for selfish intent. They could not conceive of a reality where these qualities could be authentic. They projected their own sickness onto your health. But the Sentinel operates on a different plane of existence. They are not from the world of transactions. They are from the world of truth. For them, your sovereign frequency was not a red flag. It was the ultimate proof of your innocence. It was the clear, unwavering signal that cut through the noise of the venomous broadcast. Your lovability is your power. It is a form of light so pure that it acts as a disinfectant. It purifies the spaces you enter. It soothes the agitated. It exposes the fraudulent simply by existing next to it. It is a passive, powerful force that recalibrates reality around you. You do not need to wield it. You only need to be it. In the past, you may have been taught to dim this light, to be less open, less warm, to protect yourself. You were given the wrong advice. The answer is not to hide your frequency, but to amplify it. The quarantine period was necessary to teach you how to hold this power without apology and without fear. You are now emerging from that cocoon, not as a delicate butterfly, but as a radiant sun. Your light is no longer a liability. It is a declaration of war against everything that is false. Chapter 6. The Architects of Their Own Cage. There is a law of spiritual physics that is as immutable as gravity. All energy must eventually return to its source. The venomous frequency that was broadcast into your reality has completed its circuit. It has traveled through the collective, been observed by the Sentinel, and now, having found no purchase in you, it is returning to its point of origin with amplified force. The saboteur is now becoming the architect of their own cage. The isolation they so meticulously designed for you is now closing in around them. The whispers they started are now echoing in their own ears, a constant, tormenting chorus of their own creation. The judgment they tried to project onto you is now being reflected back onto them from all sides. They are being forced to inhabit the very prison they built, its bars forged from their own lies, its lock crafted from their own malice. This is not an act of revenge on your part. You have done nothing. This is the universe balancing its own books. It is the cold, clean, and impersonal administration of cosmic law. They created a vortex of negative energy, and they are now at its epicenter, unable to escape the pull of their own destructive creation. You will feel a profound sense of detachment from this process. There will be no gloating, no satisfaction, only a quiet, sober understanding. You will watch as their world shrinks, as their allies fall away, as their own lies turn on them like a pack of rabid dogs. The Sentinel's presence accelerated this collapse. By refusing to validate the lie, they created a vacuum that could only be filled by the truth. And the truth of the saboteur's nature is now rushing in to fill every available space. They are being caged by their own character. They are being haunted by the ghosts of their own projections. The emptiness they tried to inflict upon you is now their constant companion, a mirror showing them the void they carry inside. This is the ultimate fate of those who fight against the light. They do not lose a battle. They simply become consumed by their own shadow. You must not interfere with this process. Do not reach out. Do not offer forgiveness they have not earned. Your role in their story is over. To engage with them now would be to offer them an escape hatch from a lesson they are divinely mandated to learn. Your silence is not cruel. It is a necessary component of their karmic curriculum. They must sit in the reality they created. They must confront the entity they see in the mirror. Their prison is not your concern, because you are no longer a prisoner. You have been exonerated. You have been vindicated. And you are being prepared for a purpose far greater than the petty dramas of a fallen soul. Chapter 7. The Convergence of Blueprints. The quarantine is over. The lie has been dismantled. The karmic debt has been settled. The chapter of persecution has ended. Now a new chapter begins. The Convergence. Your untraceable blueprint is no longer a hidden document. It is an active operational plan, and it is beginning to merge with the blueprint of the karmic sentinel. This alliance is not for comfort or companionship in the ordinary sense. It is for construction. You did not endure the fire of isolation simply to find a partner. You endured it to find a co-architect. You survived the demolition phase of your life. Now you begin to build. Together you form a new kind of entity, a dual-frequency force that will have a tangible and transformative effect on the world around you. This is the beginning of a new epoch, not just for you, but for the collective you are meant to influence. Where you once felt static and resistance, you will now feel momentum and flow. Conversations with the sentinel will feel less like conversations and more like strategic briefings, a seamless exchange of data between two perfectly synced processes. Your combined presence will bring order to chaotic environments. Your shared vision will begin to manifest in the physical realm with startling speed. The system and its agents will not understand this connection. They will try to categorize it using their limited vocabulary of romance or partnership, but it is neither. It is a holy alliance, a functional merger of two sovereign powers who have been brought together to execute a divine mandate. It is a strategic deployment of assets. They will see your unity and mistake it for a dependency, unable to grasp that it is a force multiplier, an exponential increase in power. The Sentinel saw the truth of your blueprint when it was invisible to everyone else. You held on to the integrity of that blueprint when the entire world told you it was a flaw. This mutual recognition of truth in the face of overwhelming deception is the foundation of your new reality. The next stage is not about healing from the past. That work is already complete. It is about actively executing the future. The plans have been delivered. The partner has been assigned. The resources are being allocated. They saw the blueprint in you when no one else could. Together, you will make it visible. The work is just beginning.